Hello, my name is Leslie and welcome to another video. We're just gonna jump right into my favorite books of the year. I really am just going to do this snappy because one, some of these favorite books of the year are like 30 minutes long. So I'm sure we've heard y'all talk about them in previous months. But anyway, I'm gonna run through my favorite books of 2019. I had a good reading year as far as the number of books I read. I had 100 that I reached on Goodreads, but I did not have a lot of like gut punch, I love these books, which is actually really sad. Like I would have rather have read 40 books that I absolutely fell in love with and think about constantly than 100 that were just like, fine. I did read like Chronicles of Narnia, which is, you know, it's great. I read a few of the Anne of Green Gables books, also great. They're just not quite my favorite books, so they didn't make the list, but I did read them and, you know, they were good. So we'll just start with number 10, and this one was a little bit of a surprise, and it was The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand. This one is funny to me because it's basically a retelling of sorts of The Christmas Carol, but with a twist, and it's YA, so there's that. I just really found it fun, and the character, or at least the main girl, Holly Chase, is an absolute brat, and she's ridiculous, but for some reason I really liked it. I think teenagers are brats, and for some, there is a part of that that I just found refreshing, and maybe because I have not read any other YA contemporary this year, that book just was fun. And I read it like as a physical book, and I typically do so much more audiobook that, I don't know, the whole experience was just really good. So I quite enjoyed that book. Number 9 on this list is Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm by Kate Douglas Wiggin. And this is very similar to Anne of Green Gables, but I remember reading it during middle grade March and just really like smiling a lot during it. And to be honest, could I actually even give you like a super synopsis of this? No. I think she goes and lives on Sunnybrook Farm with cousins or something. And, you know, it's just kind of her life. And it's cute. There's really nothing else to say about it, but I really enjoyed it. And I actually would read it again. Number 8 on this list is also a middle grade book, and that is Chasing Redbird by Sharon Creech. Last year, I believe I read Walk Two Moons by Sharon Creech, which I read as a kid, and I just love that book. But Sharon Creech is just one of the best middle grade authors. I'm not sure if she's ever written things that are not middle grade, but I certainly enjoy her stories that are set with younger kids and sort of their experience. This one, much like Walk Two Moons, is about grief, sort of exploring grief and family dynamics, and I just really, really enjoyed it. So if you've read Walk Two Moons, I also really recommend Chasing Redbird. Number 7 on this list is the first of many nonfiction. I read a lot of nonfiction this year, and I think my list is mostly nonfiction from here, so which is good. I'm proud of that. But number 7 is Voices of the Pacific by Adam Makos. This is sort of a compilation of a bunch of Marines from World War II in the Pacific, of course, talking about their experience, and I just found it really engaging. I don't know, I am a fan of World War II, as we've talked about numerous times, and this one was just really up there on ones that I really connected with from this year. Number 6 is a bit of a cheat because it's a series, and I'm just placing the Maisie Dobbs series by Jacqueline Winspear on this part of my list. I read books 1 through 10, like literally in a row. I listened to all the audiobooks, and I just got really into it. I got really into the mysteries. I liked the setting, which is England in like the 1920s, 30s. At the point where I'm at book 10, we're just moving into like World War II, so close, you know, mid 30s, late 30s. I just find it really fun. It's not like groundbreaking, but for whatever reason, this is like a mystery series that I just super got into. Of course, I have not finished, I think there's at least 4 other published books I haven't gotten to, but I'm gonna wait until I'm feeling a little bit slumpy and then check them out then. Number 5 on this list is The Radium Girls by Kate Moore. This is just about the girls from like the early 1900s, like 1900 to 1920-ish, who worked in like radium factories, like painting watch dials. and how they all got incredibly sick from radium poisoning. And it was sort of like a true crime. Like, you feel like you're following this complete injustice, and then there is like a trial towards the end of suing the companies. That part gets a little boring, and my biggest complaint about this book is that it's a little bit too long. But I just found the whole thing fascinating and captivating. So if you're into true crime, but not super, like, you know, it's not like following murders per se. I mean, kind of, but not in the technical sense that we think of now. But there is some gruesome-ish language talking about how the girls got sick. So be aware of that. Number 4 on this list is Bomb by Steve Sheinkin. This is the story of basically how the atomic bomb was made, and then plans were tried to be stolen. Tried to be stolen? Does that even make sense? I don't know, whatever. During like the 30s, 40s mainly. And this is like I guess it's a middle grade nonfiction. I guess that's what you would call it. And I really enjoyed this. I read it as like a physical book, which is not really how I consume most nonfiction, but I found this so good. I was so impressed. It was not like super dumbed down for kids. Sure, it was more generalized. It didn't get into like every tiny little nitty gritty detail, but I found it to give me a pretty good understanding of like the origins of the atomic bomb and sort of the intensity of having it constructed at the time, because it wasn't just like, oh, Americans want to bomb people during the war. It was many of the participants in the war were trying to build an atomic bomb. So it's just really, it was really interesting. I found it quite delightful. Number 3 on this list is the most surprising, because I don't know if it's like a favorite book or if it's just because I can't stop thinking about it. And this is Vida Nostra by Maria and Sergei Dyachenko. I believe that's how you say it. Russian authors. It's translated from the Russian into English. And it is so freaking weird. I don't even know what to say about it other than it was a complete page turner. And it was pretty long. Like, I think the audiobook was 18 hours or something, which I mean is probably closer to like 500 pages. And it is just, I will give you a synopsis, which could be full of spoilers, but who would know, because this book makes absolutely no sense to my pea brain. But a girl sort of gets roped into doing these tests to eventually go to like sort of like a Hogwarts, like a magic school for college. And once you complete these tasks, then you sort of rise in the ranks of what they're teaching. And part of what they're teaching is going to like another, like a higher level. It's so weird. But for some reason, I liked the characters. I really enjoyed the writing. I don't know what else to say about it. I'm making it sound crazy. Somebody, who was it? Rinsey from Rinsey Reads. I think I read her blurb on Goodreads, and I think she said it's like Harry Potter if Kafka had written it. I think that's the best analogy that I could give, or anyone could give. If you've read Metamorphosis by Kafka and you enjoyed it, you actually might like this book, but I would love more people to read it because somebody needs to explain it to me. Who knows? Number 2 on this list is Educated by Tara Westover. I remember enjoying this so much more than I expected. This is a memoir of a girl who grew up in sort of a fundamentalist Mormon cult and didn't really get formal education, but then becomes really successful at Harvard. And it's kind of about her life and some of her struggles, some of the abuse and things of that nature that she went through. And for some reason, I really, really enjoyed this. I was at the time like redoing the floors in my house. So I think I was just like in this grind of like laying down floor, but listening to this story. And I just was really into it. I don't know. I found it, you know, it's not the best writing, but it's really just, the whole story was really interesting. So if you want something about someone's life that is a little bit crazy, but apparently is true, then you should check out Educated. And my number 1 book of the year was Bad Blood by John Carreyrou. This is the story of Elizabeth Holmes and the Theranos company out of Silicon Valley, where she said she could take like a drop of your blood, anyone's blood, and test it for like a million things, unlike traditional medical testing, which is, you know, if you ever had your blood drawn, you have to go and get vials and vials and vials so they can run, you know, the gamut of testing on all of these samples. And turns out you need all that blood. You can't do it with just a drop, like a pinprick that she was saying you could do. Doesn't work, or at least the technology is not there yet. And she basically defrauded a lot of investors, and she made so much money from investing and selling basically a lie, and didn't work out. So I think it's still in litigation, I think, but I'm not 100% sure. So that was super interesting because she was really young, and as a woman in like Silicon Valley, that can't be easy anyway. So, you know, I feel like, where's that Tara? What's her name? Tara? America's Next Top Model. What is her name? You know, the "we were rooting for you." Like, that's how I feel. I feel like that in this moment because she was a liar. That book was super interesting. Highly recommend it. That one was definitely a 5-star review for me. So I hope you had a great reading year. I hope 2020 is amazing for reading, for prosperity, for whatever you want. And I'll see you next time. Bye.